All right, so a couple of weeks ago, I did a video on putting a plow on my Simplicity Sunstar, and it worked okay, but I had the thing set up to plow dirt. Actually, was trying to grade some dirt, and for that, it worked pretty good, but it's not set right, and we've had a whole bunch of snow, so let's take a look at this. I'm doing a little testing here, and like I said, it worked pretty good. I don't really have any complaints, but because it's not really set up for snow, it's got some issues. And it tends to tear everything up. Like it's tearing up the lawn when I'm on the lawn. It's not working properly. I think we can do better. So why don't we take a little bit of time out and make a few changes and a few adjustments, and we'll walk through it together. All right, we're going to get in some more snow overnight, so it's time to look at a couple of things. We'll check the oil in a little bit, but there's a few things I wanted to do here. So this pole locks in, and I need a spring because it tends to want to not stay locked, as you can see. So the only place I can see a spring working is if maybe we can connect a spring here, like underneath with a nice long rod or something. That's too tight. So let me poke around and see, but something like this. Let me see if I can find something, or I'll make something. And the other thing is springs back here. I'll get you in tighter on that in a minute. And the adjustments here, if we loosen them up a little bit more, I think we'll be better off. I made them a little bit tight because I was doing some plowing, and that's what this is on for. That's a dive control. So I think what we'll do is we'll replace this and we'll loosen that up, put some slack on it, on both of them, because it's just too aggressive. So there's a few things I want to do. So let me noodle around and I'll show you what I'm going to do, because I think that's going to help out a lot. So here's what I'm thinking. We got to get underneath this rod here. So this is a pretty lightweight, it's a throttle spring. And we don't need a lot of pressure. It's just to make sure that this pole returns consistently, because it tends not to. It gets hung up. And then you got to jiggle this handle, which is just annoying. So we've got a nice spring. I think I'm going to just take a rod like this, right? Straighten it out. It's a coat hanger. I have other rods too. But I was thinking we don't need very much. If we come from underneath and drill a hole somewhere around here, right, we could drop that in, and then we'll bend it down a little bit. I'll cut it, and then we'll attach the spring, maybe drill another hole over here that the spring has a place to go into. That's better. Oh, it's nice and sharp. There we go. That was nice and sharp. If we have to tighten it up, we'll tighten it up. But so that's more of a neutral spot. We'll have to see what it looks like on the other way. We got to move it, but we got to lift it up, because on one end it might get a little tighter. That feels pretty good. It's just enough. It should pull it back a little bit more. So let's check the oil and lift it up, because we want to check this and lubricate that, make sure that's working good. Let's go check oil. because it's been sitting, so it should be fine. Well, let's see what we got, fellas. I remember I overfilled a little bit. It still looks like it's a little overfull. She wasn't really using a lot of oil, and this is a slightly thinner mix. Yeah, she's a little overfull, actually. Doesn't smell like gas. I say we'll just leave it, all right? There we go, that's better. Yeah, that's just a scotch overfull. She's okay. Let me back you up, and we'll lift it up. You're gonna see it takes a minute to start. We need to put that electric fuel pump in this year. Snowing. That looks pretty good. Get stuck over here. Yeah. Still too wobbly. I like it, but it does get stuck over here. This is too wobbly. It gets stuck in this last cleat, because this doesn't need to just turn, it needs to get lifted up, and that rod is probably a little too flexible for it. So we may even want to improve the rod, but I can just come right over and do that. It seems to be doing the job. We could put a little bit more tension on it, you know, just a scotch, because there's really no tension on it when we're at rest. So we'll address that. Next thing we want to figure out, here, let me move you. We want to understand this. So this, see how it can do that? But it's already stopping because of this, right? So we want to remove this and put the spring on and loosen that up a little bit. The other thing too is, you see this? Right, there's the springs down there. And I'm wondering how we could adjust that so that it can have a little bit more give here. So that no matter which way you go, yeah, and this play there too, it's okay. We're gonna lubricate that too. We'll get some oil or some whatever in there. So let me fool around, I'll be back in a bit. Now, there's a decent amount of tension on this. It's pulled pretty much all the way up. But you can see, it doesn't take much. So what I want to do now is I want to get some oil down in there. And I don't know if we can get grease down in there. You can see, that's not terrible. I mean, there's some slop in it, but not much. You could tighten it, but I don't think we need to. All right, we want some slop in that. But let me get some oil in there and let me see what I can spray in there. I think maybe some white grease would be good. see the grease is in there nice. That I did recently. I got some oil in there. I got the was it 1540? I put in there. Pop a little grease on that. I have even better stuff. Big Mike gave me some rail oil for. It's used in the rails on elevators, shafts, and stuff, and it will stick. Yeah, that's good. And you'll see it doesn't take much. Let me put some no-seas on this. I got no-seas on the other one, and you can see. So I got these pretty tight. So it will move, and I can always adjust on the fly. But I think that's better. Now, this. Like it's awfully tight. Right, that's what you want. Let me go take a look at that and think about it. All right, I crawled underneath there and I loosened up the spring tension a little bit. I'll show you in a minute. But I think we can see it already. See how? All right, that's just on the spring. Now remember, when this thing comes down, it's going to put pressure on those springs. But you can see if you just, and of course lifting it up, there's room as well. So when it wants to lift up, it can lift up. But as that arm comes down, it's putting pressure down on it. And this allows it a little bit more flexibility. And then of course we've got this. So, and this can be adjusted, right? We could make these a little bit easier to move. So that's all we can test. I think that's about as much as we can do on that. Let me get you in and show you, and I got a couple of little quick things to do. All right, so those are the two springs there. So you can see where you are. Now hold on. I brought them out about 1/4 of an inch. That's about as loose as you're going to get it. And you can see how they pivot down here. All right, it's going to be a little shaky. You know, the camera's going to get a little shaky. And then this is the underside. All right, just so you can get a feel for it. And then you can see how much movement we have. It's a little springier, which is kind of what we want. All right, hold on. So this shoulder bolt and this nut should have tightened up, but it did get loose, right? The nylock on the end just didn't hold up. So this was moving around way too much. And so I tightened it and then put another nut on there for now. So it's got a jam nut on it. I also tightened up, we'll get in a closer look in a minute, but I tightened up on that link that I put over here and reinstalled it. I don't see how it could come apart, but you can always make another link with more of a hook. That puts a little bit of tension on the spring. Let's go test it. There we go. That's locked. Now, this is where I get jammed up a little bit. Now, one of the reasons why it gets a little jammed up over there is because this rod is, I think, is still a little too flimsy. So we'll have to work on that another time. But it's definitely working a lot better. Let me get you in a little tighter. A little tension there. All right. Kind of creeps in. Simple mechanism. So we got all this going good. This is not as wobbly, but it's like I said, it's still a little too wobbly. Something ain't right with that. We'll review that another day. This rod might be a little bit too flexy over here. Plus, I got a long reach on that, so that rod comes back far. We might be able to shorten it. That'll give it a little bit less of a twist. All those details, I had to make all that. So all these little details, you know, I'm getting to them as I can. I think we're ready. I'm going to go put it on charge for the night. Just because, right? We're here. All right, it's working pretty good. Pretty much cleared. Now, I think the spring tension down there is fine. That's about as good as it's going to get. But this dive control here, where I've got it as tight as I can get it, I'm going to bring this to about half. So I'm going to take a measurement or just eyeball it and just reduce the tension on the spring a little bit. The rest of it's working really good. I'm very happy with it. This is kind of soft, lightweight, but it's starting to get wet now as the temperature comes up a bit. I'll go do that and I'll go back to work. All right, so far so good. Did a lot of testing that day. And so let me get you out of here on this. So after all that testing, it did much better. In fact, I went out, did a whole bunch of neighbors' walkways and my walkway, and then I went around the corner to the corner house across the street with a lady there. She's got a newborn, and I see her out there, and she's shoveling away. And I'm like, it's a lot of property. And I said, would you like if I, before I put this thing away, would you like me to do it? She finally said yes. So I went, I did all of that. And then I looked and I said, is this little red car here out in the side street, is that yours? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, you want me to dig it out? Well, it was buried from the previous snowstorm, from the plows. And also she has, I don't think it's a mailbox. I know we have the fire hydrant there. So I did some of that. It's all concreted in the walkway area. She's got an area where she puts the cans. And then her car was plowed in. And that was fun because I wish I could have, if I had like a GoPro or something, I'd mount it on there. That was fun because there was already a lot of snow. It was piled up against the door. It was behind and in front. And what I did was I took about half the plow, to one side and cut into it and pushed it off to the side a little bit this way, a little bit that way, came a little bit, on the side of her car. And then as I was pushing it up onto the sidewalk more, because our sidewalk is wide, I was able to do sort of like the power move where you push in, and as you're getting close to the pile, you lift the plow up. And then when you go all the way in, what's nice is the plow, on those springs now, it rolls forward, and it made a nice cap, and it protects you and the plow and the machine from that bump. And then you could see it roll forward. You see a little bit in these shots here, but much better. So she was happy, and it was pretty cold. It got warmer. This is very slushy Long Island snow, so we're out on the Atlantic, so that still warms us. And then, of course, it got really cold that night, and then it got really warm and rained the next day for like a full day, and it was all gone. So all that work, right? But, I got it tuned. I got some testing. Now, the one last thing, again, like I said, I'll get you out of here, and we'll finish up with the outro and a little bit more of the testing. Those feet that come down for the plow to raise it up a little bit. Remember, there's no drift control, or like some of the tractors have like a draft control, and for plows, it's sprung loaded. So that's kind of what we're doing. And then it lays on the feet. I did get those feet set up last year when I was setting up the plow, or maybe 2 years ago. They move. They're not jammed in there anymore. They're not bent and twisted. They're straight. There is about, a paint stick, 2 paint sticks worth of clearance between the ground and the plow. Of course, if you have a crown, which often is the case, the ends duck in, they get it. And then when you rotate the plow like this and you turn it, there's always one side higher than the other. So my thinking is maybe widen those feet a little bit more with a piece of steel, put a little roll up on the edge, and then drop those feet down a little bit, giving a little bit more of a gap, maybe another 1/4 of an inch, right? Because you don't need to come that close. And the ground gets soft, right? And a lot of times it gets frozen here, but then it warms up quick. So that would give it a little bit more cushion. That'll probably be the next thing I do when I get a chance. We may have another major storm coming. It's the middle of February. It may not. It's hard to say. We could get a major snowstorm. It would be like a foot of drifted snow, 2 feet, and then it'll rain, right? So snow blowers don't really work here. So this has been a real godsend. I'm really happy to have the plow. I'm definitely enjoying the Simplicity Sunstar. I just can't say enough. Let's get out of here on the rest of the test. Thanks for watching.